Hi, welcome to your Living Yin Yoga practice. I'm Truth Robinson, a doctor of Chinese medicine, and today we're going to discuss the earth element. The earth element is made up of two organs, the stomach and the spleen. But interestingly, the spleen in Western medicine doesn't really have much to do with the digestion. It's more to do with the immune system and then red blood cells. But in Chinese medicine, it's got more to do with the digestion. Now, one of the reasons why this could be the case is because the pancreas grows out of the spleen in an embryological state. And then also the spleen helps to regulate serotonin levels in the body, one of the organs that does that. And then the pancreas is switched on and switched off by those serotonin levels. And so they assume that potentially when they say spleen, they actually mean pancreas, because all the things that's attributed to the spleen is realistically more what the pancreas does, which is releasing a lot of digestive enzymes, which help you absorb the food and bring it into your body. In this way that we say the spleen helps to create the blood. And we can see that, all the vital nutrients coming into the body and creating the foundation of you that make up your physical body. Today we're going to start in a position though called toes untucked Seiza. So Seiza is actually a meditation pose, so you'll have the toes tucked under. And in that way it's more like a release for the sole of the foot. But in this we're trying to open out through the front of the ankles and the knees. And I'm actually in the position already, but we're going to take all sorts of little variations to get you comfortable in this position. And so what you may need is something just rolled up underneath the ankle here, like a little towel or something like that, just to create a little bit of release. You might have a bit of discomfort or pain in the knee. So that just means that your knee is just bent too much. And so then we have to just bend the knee less. And so the way we can do that is with some props. You could use a bolster just underneath the bum like so. And that little lift is just going to enable you to get a less flexion of the knee. And then with ourselves sitting upright, you're going to get this little backward bend in your lower lumbar pretty much, but it's not really a backward bend. We call it a lordosis. It's more of a neutral spine, and so that's what we're looking for. And then you're going to sit upright, roll the shoulders back, and feel yourself relax down into that erect spine. Now we're going to start with a practice called Nadi Shodhana. And so Nadi Shodhana is the alternate nostril breathing. And so we're trying to open up the left and the right nadis. And so the nadis are the energy pathways in the body. Now within the yoga practice, we know of the Ida, the Pingala, and the Shushumna Nadi. And they say there was 72,000 to 360,000 more nadis, but they're not really documented. And this is the why behind why we use Chinese medicine in yin yoga, just because the Chinese medicine meridians, the Mai, they're just a little bit more investigated. And so we're really just looking at purely from that reason. But for this, it's kind of like that opening of the masculine and the feminine, the yin and the yang. Another way of looking at it is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems. And so we're just noticing during the times when we're a little bit more in our rest and our digest, the left nostril will flow more. And when we're in more of like an agitated sort of fight or flight state, then the right nostril will be flowing more. But when we can remove that kind of nervous energy from the system, then the body's able to reset and go into its natural state of homeostasis. So that's more what we're looking for today. So let's do this. We're going to start by getting our index and middle finger, placing in our third eye center, Brumadhya, and then with our right thumb, we're going to be closing our right nostril, and with our left ring finger, we're going to be closing our left nostril like so. And it's just sitting in that third eye like this. And then with the right nostril closed, we're going to be opening and drawing air, but then also feel like chi or the prana coming up from your Muladhara chakra all the way up through the left side of the spine up to the third eye center, and then descending down the right side of the spine as you open the right nostril. And then you'll feel that go all the way down to Muladhara chakra again. So inhale from Muladhara chakra up the right side of the spine, up into the third eye center, and then open the left nostril and coming down the left hand side all the way down to Muladhara chakra. So let's try this together. So as you inhale, close the right nostril, draw the chi, the prana, up that left side of the spine from Muladhara chakra up into the third eye center. Close the left nostril, open the right nostril, and then exhale the energy, the chi, the prana down the right side of the spine
down to Muladhara chakra. And then inhale up the right side of the spine, up to the third eye center. Close the right nostril, open the left nostril, exhale down the left side of the spine, all the way down to Muladhara chakra. Now let's place a count here. So as you inhale for 1 Om, 2 Om, 3 Om, 4 Om, a little pause at the top. Close the left, open the right, exhale for 1 Om, 2 Om, 3 Om, 4 Om. A little pause at the bottom. Inhale through the right for 1 Om, 2 Om, 3 Om, 4 Om. A little pause at the top. And then exhale, left nostril, 1 Om, 2 Om, 3 Om, 4 Om. Keeping this going. Next time you exhale out the left nostril, just relax your hand down. Let your breath be natural, be free. No need to change it. Just notice the natural balance, the state of homeostasis your breath has found. Notice the mental, emotional stasis, homeostasis that your body and your mind has found. Now let's take a big breath in together. And big breath out. Inhale to chant. Beautiful, yogis. So we're going to make our way out of this position now, and we're just going to spend a few moments just to rebound here. So however you want to come out, totally up to you. If you want to just come forward onto all fours, then just releasing those ankles. Maybe just have those legs extended out in front of you just for a moment or two. Just give yourself a little moment just to feel whatever has happened in those ankles. So you should feel this nice big opening through the front of the ankle and getting more range of motion. And then a little opening through that tibialis anterior. So it's a muscle next to the shin bone. You probably don't really notice it or can't really feel it. And then a little opening through your quad. So this is all the stomach pathway. And then from here,
We're going to make our way into our next pose, which is going to be an upright dragon lunge. So you're going to bring your left foot out in front of you, like so. And then you're going to have the bolster just onto the inside, the block on the inside of the bolster, just like so. And you're going to have that tucked underneath your left sit bone. So what we want to have is our right knee going further and further back behind us. And as we do this, we're just going to open out through the front of that right hip. So we're going to feel this nice big little juicy opening at the front of that right hip. And this is going to be getting into our rectus femoris, but also our iliopsoas. And so these are going to be our hip flexors, so it draws the knee up into the chest. And this is both our kidney and our stomach pathway. So rec fem is more stomach, and kidney is going to be more your psoas. And as you sink down, you can have maybe a block underneath your right hand to support or something. Or if you like, hands onto the knee or hands clasped behind the back like so. Or maybe even thumbs onto the inside of the elbow. So whatever works for you. And then as your hips sink down, heart's lifting up. And just allow yourself to find your breath. We're going to do the same practice we just did, our Nadi Shodhana, but we're going to do it mentally. So just as we did it physically before, with a little visualization, feeling that chi, that prana was moving up the left-hand side of the spine, up to the third eye center, and then down the right side. We're going to do the same thing, but just visualize it. My teacher used to always say, if you can't do a pose, visualize it, it's just as good as the real thing. And I think that's maybe because the body reacts to a real or imagined experience exactly the same. And so whatever we mentally or emotionally going through, ultimately it's going to have an impact on our physical structure. So just think about the last time you had a little nightmare. You woke up and you had that feeling of anxiety or stress in your physical body. And so that's the mind impacting on the physical structure. Maintain that mental Nadi Shodhana. Inhale up the left, pause at the top. Exhale down the right, pause at the bottom. Inhale up the right, pause at the top. Exhale down the left, pause at the bottom. Last big breath in now. And big breath out. Now, however you want to rebound, definitely just start to bow forward. Hands dropping down onto the ground. Removing the block just to the side. I do like to just come to lie on my front here, bolster underneath my lowest rib, and it just helps to take my spine into a little forward fold, and can be nice just to counter whatever has happened now. Forehead down or chin down or side of the face down. And just feel that rebound effect, that momentary fragility that you may have. And then take a big breath in. And big breath out. And feel your body normalize, feel yourself becoming a little bit more still and relaxed again, and then making your way up, coming onto all fours. And then we're just going to come straight into the other side. So right leg is going to come out in front of us. And we're just going to come straight into that lunge. So whatever you did on that side, do it on the other side. And so what I didn't mention before, but if you have discomfort in your knee, you can always like double over your mat or something like that. But just do make sure that left knee is going back as much as you comfortably can. So you feel this sensation up the front of the thigh. Sensation just below your frontal hip point. That's going to be anterior inferior iliac spine. That's going to be more your rectus femoris. If you have sensation more on the inside edge of that frontal hip point, the anterior superior iliac spine, but just on the inside of that, and then coming up into your belly a little bit, that's going to be more your psoas. So sinking those hips down, heart's lifting up, shoulders rolling back, and then you're just going to find your way straight into that mental Nadi Shodhana again. So exactly what you did before. So we're looking just to allow the body to be finding its natural rhythm, its natural flow, whatever it feels like it needs to do. And it's because the body is infinitely wise. Surprisingly, it doesn't really need us to get involved too much in its natural process. If anything, we probably get a little bit too involved. So we find ourselves just changing the natural flow of your body. And in this way, we're starting to maybe feeling a little bit anxious, frustrated, concerned, fearful, all these little emotions. And each time that happens, it just throws our physiological structure out a little bit. Now, the emotion that is directly linked to the stomach and spleen is worry. Another way of thinking about it is actually ruminating, because worry has a little bit of like stress and anxiety, which can be a bit livery as well. But ruminating is that inability to let go of a thought or an idea, and it's just going over it again and again and again. And what it's symbolic of is stagnation. And so you're unable to move forward in your thought process. You're stuck. And the way the body works is like this big, amazing reticulating fountain. So the circulation of fluid all around, going all the way around the whole body. And everything needs to flow from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. And the digestion is the perfect example of that. If the food stuff got stuck in the belly, you might get a little bit of indigestion, a little bit of nausea. We'd say it's rebellious chi, it's coming back up. And if it was maybe like going down too quickly instead of taking its time in the different areas, then it's going to be this sort of downward dropping chi. It's just going to go straight down. It could be with a spleen chi deficiency. So the first one going up, it's more stomach, and then going down, it's going to be more your spleen that you need to work on. But both of these is the body unable to move through its process the way it needs to, from flowing from one area to the next, to the next, to the next, taking the time that it needs to process whatever is coming through. And that's the same thing as our thoughts. Our inability to allow us to fully process what is coming through means that we can upset our digestive process. And if this doesn't make much sense to you, just think about the last time that you had to give a public speech in front of everybody, and just remember what happened in your belly, that like really strong butterflies feeling, and maybe you got slightly looser stools and maybe a little bit of gassy and a little bit bloated. Suddenly your digestion was like, get out of me, like it's just this flushing straight through. And so because of that, we're unable to allow our digestion to function the way it needs to, systematically moving from moment to moment. And just like our mental, emotional thoughts, they weren't moving logically from one thought to the next thought, Instead, they were jumping from here and there and getting stuck, going backwards, going forwards, going backwards, and able to truly be present. Take a big breath in and a big breath out. You're going to start to make your way out of this. So again, just bowing forward, bring the hands down onto the ground, and then just releasing that bolster from underneath you, allowing it to come out to the side. Maybe you just want to lie into your front. Maybe you want to have a bolster underneath your hips again. Totally up to you. And then just lying down. And take yourself that little moment just to get present again. And to feel that natural moving back to a place of homeostasis. The body just resetting. And take a big breath in. And big breath out. And you're going to make your way out of this. So coming onto all fours. Hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. If you need a little cat-cow or something, just to feel a little bit more normal in your body, please take that. Now this next pose we're going to come into is a half saddle. And we're going to do it in coming onto the left side. If you want to come onto the right side, I don't really mind. But it doesn't really matter anyway, but it's just so you can see me. So you're going to have that right leg out in front of you. You're going to have the left foot tucked underneath you. Now, be mindful that the toe's not pointing out to the side like here. And the reason why it might be is because you don't quite have the range to get what we call plantar flexion, which is when the foot points like that. It's got more restriction there, and so it's like it's coming out of plantar flexion as it's almost like dorsiflexing, so coming back a little bit. And so for us to fix this, you may be just going to roll up something and place it underneath that ankle like so. And it's just going to give it a little release. We want to open out through this connective tissue because it's the same piece of connective tissue that goes through the shin and then bifurcates over the knee and then goes up over the thigh as well. So you want to make sure you are doing that. And then the block is underneath your right sit bone. And the reason why we have a block underneath the right sit bone is to not make it more beginnery, but also to make it more advanced as well. So it's accessible to everybody, and it's also giving everybody the opportunity to go further. Ideally, you want to have the hips pretty much aligned in this, so level. If your right hip is down onto the ground, what you can see over here actually is that there's not much room between my thigh and my calf. Like when I have it right underneath there, there's like really not that much room. But then when I remove the block from underneath my bum and sit my right bum down, there's heaps of room, like I can get my whole hand underneath there. So what that means is that if you're trying to get your right sit bone down, chances are you're getting less flexion of the knee, which means you're actually reducing the amount that you're going to get in there. And then usually the foot points out to the side a little bit, which means you're going to get less plantar flexion of the foot. So using a block is actually going to bring you into a little bit more of an advanced position because it's going to enable you to have that foot tucked underneath you as much as you comfortably can. Then you're going to have the bolster back behind you. I'm just going to shift a little bit forward. And we're going to move super slowly here. So you're going to allow yourself to move only so much as your body will allow you to go further. So you just bring your hands back. That's all you need to do. And so don't worry about where those knees are. It doesn't really matter. That was a bit of a funny alignment cue that we inherited. I'm not quite sure the why behind it. I guess it looks pretty if those knees are together, but if your skeleton is different to somebody else's, it'll make a big difference as to where those knees actually naturally land. And so it's less of an actual cue, but more of a like, if your skeleton is perfect like this, then you can get those knees together. So don't really worry about that. It doesn't do anything to the sacrum. Hands coming back behind you. And then you're starting to feel maybe a little bit more sensation in that thigh. And then maybe you can walk your hands further back again. And so what we're doing is we're just enabling ourselves to wait for the invitation of the body to take us a little bit deeper into this position. You may be able to lie straight back, but when you lie back, you maybe squirm a little bit and you're not quite comfy. So just enable yourself to just move super slowly, looking after yourself in each stage to eventually come to lie on your back. And then when you are lying back, enable yourself just to land on the bolster. Check back in with your breath. So with all our yin poses, we say the point of first sensation. And so if you've come to this point and your breath is short and sharp, then it's not the point of first sensation. You're probably in pain at this point. So it means you just need to back off, find that point of first sensation, a more sustainable pose, and in a pose that's actually going to be more beneficial, because as you relax those muscles, the connective tissue goes into tension, and so when the muscles relax, the bones move apart. When the bones move apart, the stress of the pose goes into the connective tissue, which is actually what we want. So just closing your eyes and finding your breath again. Notice the mind's urge to think. It's just what the mind does, isn't it? See if you can't find a one point of focus. We're using that mental nadi shodhana to keep the awareness focused on one thing, just to give the mind a break from its incessant wandering. Maybe you just want to focus on just the breath coming and going. Maybe it's the rise and fall of the breath in the belly. Let's take one more big breath in. And a big breath out. You're going to use your hands to bring yourself up. If your knee is a little bit uncomfortable, otherwise there's a much easier way to come out. And that is you'll bend your right knee, remove that block from underneath the bum, roll onto the right hand side, and then just release that left foot back behind you. And then bolster goes underneath the thigh. And of course, always trust your body. And so if you feel the urge to draw the knees up and rock the knees from side to side, absolutely go for it, trust it. Chances are it's more of a sign of you going a little bit too deep in the practice. So it's a beautiful opportunity to get to know your body and get to know your practice. And allow yourself next time just to come to that point of first sensation, not to the point of pain. Take a big breath in. And breath out. Drawing those knees up into the chest. A little windscreen wipe of those knees from side to side. And then roll to one side. And push yourself up sideways, coming into the other side. And so you're just going to do exactly what you did on the other side. This time we're going to have that right foot tucked underneath us. Left leg out in front of you, bolster back behind you. And you'll make your way back slowly. So no rush here. Hands back. And then just wait for that invitation. So if you're super aware and present, you'll start to notice there'll be a moment where your body offers you an opportunity to go deeper. That's the moment that you should go for it, not a moment too soon. A little moment of rebound we have in between the poses. It's a really great example of how this energy of the stomach and the spleen works. And so if there's a season that correlates to the stomach and spleen, the earth element, it's late summer. Now what's interesting is late summer is actually a time of harvest, a time of consolidation to build foundation to move into the next stage, the next experience. And so with us, moving into this experience of harvest time, it's more like a pause between the energetic cycles. And so another way of thinking about it is actually instead of late summer, rather it's better thought of as late season. So before the end of every season, we say the last 18 days, there's a time to pause. It's almost like the space between the inhale and the exhale, or the moment when the waves hit the ocean shore and just crashes, but then pauses before then receding again. And that's the energy, that pause, that time of consolidation, the time just to be present to what is, to get ready to move into the next energetic expression, the next way of being. And so then, with the stomach and spleen, that's exactly what it's doing. It's laying the foundation for all the other organs to function. It's laying the foundation for all the other seasons to function. So it's that time of pause, the time between the transformation, the time to get ready to move into the next stage. In this way we see the stomach and spleen as having that ability to create that foundational aspect, and that's why we say the spleen creates the blood, because that blood is that foundational aspect, isn't it? It's like when we go home at night, we eat good food and we have good rest. And the body regenerates, it looks after itself, and then we race off into our day and all our different energetic expressions throughout the day. And we have these different ways of being, exercising or working, etc., that have particular energetic demands. Maybe you'll be expanding, maybe you're contracting a little bit, or whatever it is. It needs this foundation of the stomach and spleen to create that energetic possibility. So allow your mind to pause. And so that's why ruminating disrupts the digestion, because it doesn't allow you to pause. And so maybe the pause is just going to be focusing in on your breath. Maybe it's doing that mental nadi shodhana. Let's take one more big breath in now. And big breath out. Now we're going to roll over onto our left-hand side. Unless you have any kind of knee troubles, then come straight back out the way you came in. Otherwise, bending that left knee, removing that block from underneath the bum, releasing that right foot out to the side, releasing the bolster from underneath you, bringing it underneath your thighs. And then just give yourself a moment just to rebound, to feel that release again. And again, hopefully we treated ourselves with a little bit more love and respect, only going to that point of first sensation. But if you did notice that you did accidentally go a little bit too far, trust your body. Always draw the knees up. Last big breath in. And big breath out. Throwing the knees up. Little windscreen wiper those knees from side to side. And then just roll to one side. And push yourself up sideways. We're going to make our way now into a tadpole pose. If you need anything first, a little cat-cow, absolutely do it. Look after your body, a little twist, whatever. And for here, we're going to have the knees spread super, super wide. And so it's basically like a child's pose, but it's more correctly a super wide-legged child's pose. So knees go as wide as they can. Big toes are touching back behind you. And then bolster out in front of you. Now, in the final pose, you want to have your spine parallel with the bolster. But what quite likely will happen is that you don't quite have the range in your adductors or in your quads, so you can't quite bend your knee or separate your knees enough, which is totally fine. But then what will happen is your hips will end up being a little bit higher. So when you come forward, you'll kind of come forward and you'll have this really bizarre kind of angle at the neck, which is really not great for our necks. And so what you'll do instead is, for those knees separated, you'll lie down on top of the bolster. And if you're not quite parallel, you'll bring the bolster up higher and then lie down on the bolster like so. So you find your variation. If this is truly giving you a little bit of trouble, then bring your hips a little bit further forward. So if your knees are sore, then that's the case. If underneath the knees are sore, then place something underneath that. If your knees are too bent, you can always roll up towels underneath and between your thigh and your calf, and that can stop the knees from bending as much as well. So find a variation that's going to work for you. And then the sensation, we want to be feeling the target area is that inner thigh, so it's the adductor. And then also you're kind of getting into the inside edge of your knee flexors as well, knee extensors, sorry, so with the knee flexed. And so basically it's kind of the spleen meridian, which is the gap in between your adductors, which is more your liver, and then your knee extensors, which is your quads, which is more your stomach pathway. And reality is it's probably closer to a little muscle called the sartorius, but it's more the space between it. So all pathways of the meridians is all connective tissue, not so much muscles. So the space is in and around the muscles. And so just allow yourself to drop into that beautiful state of presence. Now initially this can be quite a challenging position or feeling to constantly come back into, because our mind always wants more. Our mind wants to be entertained or distracted. And so we want to come into this feeling of maybe thinking as a point of entertainment. But with each thought that we have, there's a slight mental emotional inclination. Maybe it's a slight craving, or maybe it's a slight aversion. So, even if you think of the word pillow, it's going to have maybe a positive connotation for you, compared to thinking of the word spike, which maybe has a negative connotation. And then, so for each one of those, there's going to be a slight impact on the physiological structure. And so coming into the space of homeostasis mentally, perfect balance. We'll enable our body to come into a state of homeostasis, defaulting back to its intuitive wisdom to heal, to look after itself, to create foundation. Notice the mind in that state of distraction. Come back to the breath. Last big breath in now. And breath out. You're going to make your way up onto all fours. Maybe there's a little cat-cow or something here. And then just bring yourself to lie forward on top of that bolster. Knees straight back behind you. And just rebound here, lying on your front. Take one more big breath in. And big breath out. Make our way onto all fours, and we're going to come into our next pose, which is actually a puppy pose. And so a puppy is a small dog, obviously, and so the shape is similar to a downward dog, and that's the idea of it. Now, you don't have to use a bolster. You can definitely do this without a bolster. If your knees are uncomfortable in this position, you can always place something underneath the knees, something cushy. I'm pretty happy to do this without something underneath the knees though. And the way we're going to come into this is we're basically just allowing yourself to come forward, elbows wide, forehead down onto the ground. So we're going to take those elbows wide until you don't have any impingement at the back of the shoulder there, and so it's comfortable. Now, if you do have a little bit of discomfort in the back of the shoulder, or if that felt too deep, you can reduce the amount that you need to go down by bringing a bolster underneath the chest, and the chin is just off the edge like so, And having the chin just off the edge means that you don't have to get a big compression in the back of the neck, which is also good. If you want to go a little bit further, bolster underneath your elbows. Forehead down onto the ground if possible. Again, elbows a little bit wider. Now, if you are going to get compression in the back of the shoulder there, we need to get your shoulder blades lifted and externally, and your arm bones externally rotated. Anatomically, this makes a lot of sense. I'll go into it at another time though. So block between the heel and the palm, elbows down on top of the bolster. Elbows need to be as wide as the block, and make sure it's between the heel and the palm, not the palm, because if you have it between the palm and the heel, the palm can just come together. And then forehead drops down onto the bolster, elbows bending and coming back behind the head like so. And that's just for those people that have compression. Otherwise, coming into one of those other variations, head down onto the ground. And so this one we're trying to open out through our rectus abdominis, which is basically our sort of abs in our belly. Now, realistically, the best way of actually doing this would be more into like a wheel pose, which is not really practical in our yin practice. So it's kind of one of those harder ones to get into. But maybe we're starting to feel a little bit of opening, maybe we're in our upper abdominals more than anything, and coming over through the front of the chest as well. And so this is the front line of the spine, which is kidney, but then also more the surface layer and a little bit more lateral to the surface skin of the front body is the more the stomach, and then slightly into the spleen as well. And notice as you sit here and with your eyes closed, and you feel that train of thought that's coming. And what's interesting is the way I think about this is like a river. It's this constant flow of water coming. Sometimes it's gushing quickly and sometimes it's gushing slowly. And our thoughts are exactly the same. Excuse me, sorry. And so then we have a choice. We can jump into that river. We can get swept away by that river. And then as we get swept away, we're getting involved in those thought processes, interacting with every part of that river. It's feeling really real and a part of our existence. And, sometimes it's relaxing to float down the river, and sometimes it's extremely scary. But there is another choice. We can sit on that riverbank and just watch it. And whether or not it's a gushing, raging torrent or it's a calm, serene little brook, both of them can be relaxing to watch. And so as you draw yourself into the breath, this is this ability to sit on that riverbank, to be the witness to what is happening without getting involved. Let's take one more big breath in. And breath out. Making your way forward, and we're actually just going to marry this straight into our next pose. So you're going to definitely need a cushion and maybe something else for the head to be supported on. And then you're just going to lie back over that bolster with the head on top of it. Now, if you just have a cushion, that's going to be perfect. It's just because it's not going to be that high. Maybe your head will be on the ground like so. If you have a bolster and you just want to allow your spine to come up over that bolster a little bit more, feel free to do that as well. And so what we're actually targeting here is the sternocleidomastoidus. And so it's this muscle called the SCM. So it goes from the sternum, which is in the center of the chest, and then there's another branch of it that actually goes from the clavicle, which is the bone, just the collarbone. And then that makes its way up, both of them, to come behind the ear. And that big bone behind the ear is called the mastoid process. And so it's this muscle. Now we're going to come into this safely. So you're going to use your hand just to lift the head up. Now with the head lifted up, you can allow your chin to extend up towards the sky, and then big arc back behind you instead of just dropping the head back. And then just turn the head to the left hand side to try and get into the right side, SCM. And so it's more of a subtle sensation here. Hands can be a little bit more relaxed. We're only going to be here for a couple of minutes, but make sure there's no pain in the back of the neck. It just means that you need to support your head more if you have that sensation. And take one more big breath in. And breath out. And then clasp behind the back of the head. Use your hands to bring the head back up. Just give yourself a moment just to rebound. Head to support it up. Use the upper body to support you. And then we're going to come into the other side. So chin's going forward and up. Turn the head to that right hand side. And then just resting the head back. And again, make sure the sensation's at the front of the neck, not at the back of the spine. If so, you just need to support yourself more. Just breathing here. And take one more big breath in here. And breath out. And again, use your hands, bring the chin to the chest. And now the way we're going to rebound is actually just walk our body down, bolster back behind you, and then bolster just underneath the head just for a moment. Just give yourself a little moment just to rebound. And then when you're ready, you can make your way into your final release for today. So if you don't have a bolster, knees spread wide, soles of feet touching. If your lower back's a little bit tender, otherwise legs extended. Otherwise just sticking that bolster or cushions or pillows or blocks underneath your thighs. And just coming to rebound and lie onto your back. And so feel your body just land into the earth, feeling that stability that the earth is giving you. When your digestion is working well, when you're able to bring heaps of foundational aspects of your being into your body, then you're able to feel abundant. And the beauty of feeling abundant is you feel like you want to give and to offer, and you have so much energy available for those around you. And in this way, this becomes a real energy of the mother. This ability for you to create connections between those around you easily. To create a space easily in your life to regenerate, to rejuvenate, to feel refreshed and restored. And that ability to feel like you can just give and give and give. And then when your digestion is not functioning well, you move into that experience of scarcity. Unable to endlessly give, unable to truly find connection with those around you because you're always trying to satisfy something within yourself. And in this way, you can eat without ever feeling satisfied. You can constantly crave sugar just because you need an instant energy hit because your digestion is not bringing enough nutrients into your body. You can feel diarrhea, constipation. You can feel a little bit of indigestion or belching or flatulence, and all of these things are based around our mental emotional experience of our digestion, that real feeling of nervousness, of that mental emotional anxiety that's just there, always thinking about one thing or the other. So far better able to come into this beautiful space of stillness instead, to allow the mind to relax, and then to allow the body to come into its natural state of homeostasis instead. Now at some point today, tonight, whatever is left of your day or your evening, or maybe sometime this week, you're going to have a moment where maybe you're unable to let go of something. It's a thought process that just goes around and round, like you've jumped into that river and now you're being swept away. So instead of being stuck in that thought process, one thing my meditation teacher used to tell me is get up and do something physical. They used to tell me to sweep out my little meditation hut So get up and sweep everything out. And just that simple act of doing something physical helped me to move through that mental emotional stagnation, allowed me to move on to the next process logically, to create some space in between the thing that was vexing me and then allowing it to see it in a different point of view. So maybe it's going to be sweeping the floor, maybe it's going to be doing the washing, maybe it's going to be taking a walk around the block. Whatever it is, it's just a physical act just to help to shift that mental emotional block. And then you're so welcome to stay here, but take a big breath in and a big breath out. Extending those arms up above the head, point your fingers, point your toes, big stretch. And as you exhale, drawing the knees into the chest and just rolling over to that right hand side, making a little pillow for those head with the arms. And taking a big breath in and out here. And push yourself up sideways, coming into a comfortable seated position facing the front. And bring the palms together in front of the chest in prayer. Anjali Mudra, they're bringing together the Ha and the Tha, the sun and the moon in the heart space. And from that place of balance, take a big breath in and big breath out. Inhale to chant. Namaste, yogis. Thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure. Again, if you want to stay in contact with me, you can find me at Truth Robinson on Instagram. If you'd like to listen to amazing podcasts, if you'd like to train with me, whether online or in person, or you'd like to donate to support this YouTube video, then please go to livingyin.com. Until next time, yogis.